morning. This is the North Maricopa Mountain Wilderness area, and I'm going to pause for a minute to revisit a strange change to an old anime friend. Gunbuster v. Diebuster. Bandai Visual has recently released the Gunbuster v. Diebuster Gatai movie box set in North America. That's a packaging of a Japanese theatrical double feature release of two OVA movies. Gunbuster, Aim for the Top, and Diebuster, or Gunbuster 2 as the sequel was known in North America. Despite the titles, these remain entirely separate movies, and there's no additional crossover material beyond what was contained in the original 20-year-on sequel. I've already done reviews of each of those two OVA series separately, and you may want to check that out for more information on them specifically. Bandai is stuck with their subtitle without a dub release for this. So the question is, if you've already seen these, or these, is there any reason you'd want to watch this? And if you've never seen Gunbuster, is this the one to start with? And could I possibly be a bigger Gainax fanboy? Let's start with the Gunbuster movie. If you've never seen the 6 1988 Gunbuster OVAs, you may find my other review helpful in fleshing out some of the details. Gunbuster is a sci-fi mecha anime set in the future. It tells the story of a young mecha pilot trainee, Noriko, who's being groomed by her dedicated coach to become a co-pilot, along with fellow pilot Amano, of the ultimate Earth weapon, Gunbuster, which they hope will defend the planet from the invasion of swarming space monsters who are bent on exterminating the species. The Gunbuster movie is a re-editing of the original 6 OVAs into a 1 hour and 40-minute movie. The publicity says they've added a surround soundtrack, though I'm no sound expert. I didn't hear anything really remarkable coming out of the additional channels. So in cutting it down from 3.5 hours to 1 hour and 40 minutes, how did it go? Obviously something had to be cut. Well, most of Noriko's training from the first OVA has been excised down to a mere 7 minutes before the title. Gone is all the hazing and her nemesis Kashihara. Also gone is a lot of the Aim for the Ace parody and a lot of the comedy. Almost all the second OVA is gone, including, perhaps surprisingly, the introduction of young Freud. I think that would be confusing if you'd never seen the OVAs, because when we get to the end, both Kashihara is going to meet up with Amano at Graveside, and young Freud is going to drop in for the finale. And if you've only seen the movie, you're not going to know who those characters are or why they're there. On the other hand, Kimiko and her young daughter Takami are both still present, and I think that's wise, since they're a big part of Noriko's motivation, as is co-pilot Smith. Most of the parody and comedy are gone, and most of the fan service with it. So is a little bit of the fun. For trivia buffs, the early training montage scene is also gone, so you don't have to wonder about whether they restored the original soundtrack to that for this release. The movie version concentrates heavily on the final 2 OVAs. What's left is mostly a serious sci-fi movie without all the fun, bounce, and cheese that made the original OVAs quite so much fun. As a fan of Gunbuster, I can see wanting to see the movie on a big screen for the full theatrical experience, in the same way I like to see Lawrence of Arabia or 2001 or Lord of the Rings on a big screen. But given the editing, I have to consider the Gunbuster movie as merely an adjunct to the original OVAs and not a replacement. If you've never seen Gunbuster, start with the original OVAs. I don't think the movie edition adds anything to the small screen, so if you want to watch it on home video, I suggest sticking with the original OVAs as well. Now on to the Diebuster movie, Gunbuster 2. It's kind of amusing that when you first put in the second DVD, you're greeted by a 5-minute intermission countdown. I've seen DVDs do that before in the middle of a movie, such as, say, Gone with the Wind, but I don't think I've ever seen it at the beginning of a DVD. At any rate, while you're waiting, you get to listen to a symphonic version of Kohei Tanaka's soundtrack, so that's not too bad. Or you can just fast forward. Gunbuster 2, or Diebuster, is a sequel to the original Gunbuster set 12,000 years in the future. If you've never seen it, you can go find a separate review I did of those OVAs. It tells the story of Nono, a very strange girl on Mars who wants desperately to become a space pilot, and Lark, the Buster pilot, and Topless, who takes her into the space fraternity. Again, we're fighting space monsters. The Die Buster movie takes over 3 hours of OVA material and edits it down to an hour and 40-minute movie. This time there's actually a small amount of new material that's put in that changes things slightly, but not majorly. So how did things change in the shortening? Well, since most of the material is gone, Nono isn't as ditzy as she was in the OVAs. Also, most of the fan service is gone. So too are most of the roles that belong to mecha pilots Tycho and Nicholas. Completely gone is Tycho's new Buster machine, the snowman, the attempted rape, and Lark's first rather uncomfortable visit with Earth's non-Buster military defense force. The movie skips most of OVAs 2 and 3 and concentrates on the final OVAs, making it a much more serious affair. Now, the sequel wasn't as good as the original, so it doesn't suffer as much from the shortening. On the other hand, I never particularly felt I wanted to see Die Buster up on the big screen. So my recommendation is this: if you get a chance to see this double feature on a big screen in a nice theater, I'd go ahead and take it. But for small screen viewing, I think the original OVAs are more satisfying, and I'd stick with them, especially since the price tag on this Gatai movie box is really aiming for the top. Thanks for listening.